Buenas tardes. Sí, bueno, voy a intentar estar un poco corto porque es el fin del día y imagino que todo el mundo está cansado, pero la idea de esta presentación es mencionar rápidamente un poco nuestro compromiso como Departamento de Ayuda Humanitaria de la Unión Europea en reducción de riesgo de desastre y más que todo en preparación ante desastre. Mencionar uno de estos, yo diría, evidencias que hemos visto después de Matthew, que hacen, I'm sorry, I'm doing it in Spanish. I guess we have to do it in English, right? I will switch, sorry about that. So the idea is to do the presentation in 3 stages. The first one is to explain a little bit our involvement in disaster preparedness. The last one is try to mention the evidences we could notice after Hurricane Matthew. And finally, to show how it's needed to have this illustration in terms of what works and what's not in terms of investment and disaster preparedness. I put this slide, I guess everybody knows it, but not to remind her how is this scale. It's mainly to see what it's written here and what happens just before Hurricane Matthew. You know that when it starts and when you have a category 3 or 4, it's clearly mentioned, we will have to deal with catastrophic damage. So disaster preparedness needs to be done, and we know that we will have people in need of assistance. So I guess all the efforts are needed. In our case, we are implementing disaster preparedness with partners. The size of the partners is not a love index, it's mainly the amount of money which has been involving or channeled by partners during the last 20 years. And we see that our main partners in the region, in Latin America and Caribbean region, have been UNDP, IFRC, Oxfam, Red Cross, to help us to develop disaster preparedness program. We work in more than 34 countries, and if you see in the Caribbean region, it's more than 60 million, which has been invested since 1995, in fact. And this means we need to see effectively what's working in an emergency comparing to normal business, let's say. One figures for each $10 invested in humanitarian assistance in the Caribbean region, almost $2 are dedicated to disaster preparedness. It's also more than 520 projects, so it's important for us now to get, this evidence in order to still focus as much as possible to the main action that can make the difference. And that's a little bit how we start with Yokohama. Some of you probably remember it was, this strategy and plan for the safe world. And at that time we were speaking about mitigation, prevention, and preparedness. Now we are committed in the implementation of the Sendai and disaster-based prediction. And the idea, you can see, if the budget increases slowly, as the number of projects are reducing. The idea is to target as much as possible on actions that can really make a difference. And now let's move to what happened in Haiti. Was it exceptional? The response to this is yes, it was. But if you look at the statistic, you know that, in Port Salut, which is the west part of Haiti, I don't know if this is working, maybe not. But in the west part, which has been affected by Matthew, normally each 10 years you have one of a hurricane impacting the region. So again, disaster preparedness need to be maintained and developed in this area. The other point also, it's in Haiti, before speaking about what was working, we had almost more than 2.7 billion of losses and more than 2 million of people affected. But this comes just after the drought. even the Nino in 2014 and 2015, and the drought in 14, sorry. And before we had Hurricane Sandy, and before we had the cholera epidemic in end of 2010, and before we had the earthquake, and before we had this hurricane season in 2008 with Faye, Ivan, Gustav, and so. So it's extremely important to maintain a capacity to be prepared for emergency, for these extreme events. How it was working in the Caribbean region. All start the 28th of September. And you see when it starts, it's still not a hurricane, it's a depression. And we receive, I'll say, the first things which was working quite well has been in Barbados. We could have a good monitoring process activated for the region, a good exchange of information, and everybody could react rapidly in this region. The first good example of good practices, even if it was under an early warning project implemented by UNDP and Red Cross, has been in terms of early warning system for floodings. And in St. Vincent and Grenadines, really the testimonies are clear. People have been informed in time, could evacuated, and we almost have just one fatalities, but we saved probably life, and lots of people could save also some of their assets. Second moment, critical moment, is on Saturday, 1st of October. We already know it's a category 5. We know that it may affect Haiti and Jamaica. We didn't know at that time if it would be more in the Jamaican side or more in Haiti. But we all know that it's really one of the strongest hurricanes after Chloe in 1994. And at regional level, all the mechanism has been activated. And Dominican Republic has been the first country impacted by floods. And let's mention a little bit what has been working, implemented by Oxfam in the country. They activated something which is interesting. It's water point. They noticed that after each emergency, the access to safe water is failing. And it's failing because the rate of distribution, the net for distribution of water, is destroyed, but down in the lower part of the distribution set. So it has been organized in the upper part of the net of the water distribution, some water points in order to do water trucking. So you can reactivate and have a water trucking system really easy to set up. And this makes a difference. It also installed some chlorination systems that can provide some water treated really rapidly, efficiently, and you don't have to have specific truck. You can organize it with a normal truck and you put some tanks inside and you organize a water distribution system easily. The other point also, which was working with Oxfam, Plan International and UN Habitat, was this shelters, we call it mobile shelters, which has been implemented and was used during Hurricane Matthew efficiently, keeping the international standard in terms of shelters. So, good point, really nice improvement. The last point, which is worth sharing information. It's in the border area between Haiti and Dominican Republic. It's always challenging the exchange of information, probably because, two different systems, two different language, and with the support and developing mechanism to try to have this disaster preparedness in the border area, it improved a lot some joint activity during Hurricane Matthew. So a clear added value. In addition of this, what we could see also, which was quite impressive, is something is missing. No, it's later on, sorry. So let's speak about Haiti now. In Haiti, maybe the first things we have to mention, it has been a catastrophic damage, but the first thing we have to mention is the leadership role which has been taken by the major in the zone, in the area affected. And I think the support provided also with UNDP in the context of a disaster preparedness project, supported by ECHO at the beginning, but after by the EU delegation, makes a difference. And here it's Ansdeno, which has been totally destroyed, but also a small village or the small town on the other side, which is called Dan-Marie. The evacuation process functioned perfectly, even if Haiti, there is not so many things which still could be safe, but almost in Dan-Marie, for example, no fatalities. Everybody could be evacuated in time, so I would say it's a really positive also product from disaster preparedness. The other testimonies we could find also, it's CIMEX, which is a simulation exercise. The simulation exercise really makes a difference, and every people was mentioning that this really helped to organize a good evacuation process. The last point also mentioned by Copy was also this family plan. People know at family level what they have to take, and it's not only the evacuation, it's also organize your family, see what's important at the moment of evacuation. Simple things, but this makes a difference. And finally, that's what I was thinking to mention it, we could see also this assistance coming from the neighboring countries. And we could see that the Dominican Republic, with this unit of water treatment, coming in the country and supporting Haiti for water distribution. And this product has been set up in all time. It's for the people we know quite well, ECHO, this logo is not anymore of actuality, it's more than 10 years old. So it's great to see that these materials implemented 10 years before are still used and activated in an emergency. And it was really a strong emotion to see all this team coming from Dominican Republic supporting Haiti in this moment. I would say also these teams from neighboring country makes a difference. Whoops, I see that I'm too long. Cuba. Did you give me just 2 minutes? Okay. I'm sorry, just Cuba and I close, no? Okay, just Cuba also. There is a lot to learn. No, I'm going to close because my colleague is here. But just really in Cuba, there is a lot of learning. I'm sorry, I don't. And I will close here just to say that it's really we need evidences. We need to take stock of these testimonies in order to have a policy dialogue, and I'm over, if we want to have a policy dialogue for disaster risk reduction. I'm sorry about that.